David, this would be considered a win for the president. We have to remember, this goes back to the first 7 days of his presidency.
It does indeed. And let's be frank, for any other president, this would not have been a close call. I mean, the Washington Post put it well. The Supreme Court had to decide between the president and this president. Normally, a president has really broad authority. The problem was when he campaigned and early on in his tenure, he specifically mentioned Muslims, made it about religion, not just about controlling borders. And that's what made this a more difficult case.
We are keeping an eye out for any response from the White House, the administration, or the president on Twitter. In fact, there may be a response. But arguments were in April, and they suggested that the court was poised to uphold the strategy. Justice Anthony Kennedy was a little reluctant to get involved in matters of national security, apparently.
Well, that's the issue. I mean, when you have the third branch, the judiciary, they are very reluctant on things having to do with the border, having to do with national security. Also, let's remember the Supreme Court had actually indicated this is where they were going because they refused to stay it. They basically let the president go on ahead and enforce the travel ban, and normally the court would have stopped it until they could decide the case. That was actually an early signal that, in fact, they'd be going this way.
David Westin, I remember when I was sat in San Francisco and all of this was coming out about the original travel ban being brought up and the shock and horror coming from particularly the technology community. CEOs spoke out about this. What do you think the corporate effects will be?
Well, obviously, as you know so well, having spent time out there in Silicon Valley, particularly the tech sector is very concerned about those special H-1B visas and the restrictions on letting people come in. At the same time, the president, I think, if he were debating with them, would say, look, I want to go to a merit-based visa system. I want to come off of the lottery base. And so that will help you, in fact, let people in. But he's specifically targeting very specific countries here, and he's claiming it's for national security and to protect us. I'm sure he'll come out with a statement saying that we're safer today because of what the Supreme Court had to say.
And where do we see this bending towards Donald Trump going forward as well? I mean, as we're just hearing, this is a big coup, a big win. Do we think that this is something that he can speak out about in terms of his victory?
Well, certainly to his base. I mean, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that the core Trump supporters really are concerned about security in the United States, and particularly security from people coming in from outside the country, and obviously from certain countries that have had terrorists come in from there. He'll no doubt trumpet that to his base. I mean, more broadly, I'm not sure how this will read against some of those awful images of those children, the small children separated from their parents. Not sure how those two read together.